Hello, I am Paradoxmaster1819. This is Mass Effect Andromeda, episode 88, in which case we are reading the Codex and Journal options. Codex and Journal options about the Andromeda Initiative. Known associates. But oh my god. This is just a thing of... Okay, well, it's just it's just bits and pieces on people that we know. PB describes herself freely as the foremost Milky Way expert on the Remnant and their technology. It is difficult to verify her qualifications for this, as many Nexus personnel records have been lost. DNA and fingerprint matches give the name Pelisaria Basale. I've tried to spell that for the one that was her loyalty mission, but it's a bit difficult. Although according to the revival schedule, that individual should still be in stasis, PB's only comment is nothing like getting a head start. Piecing together information from Eos and the Nexus, PB was born on the planet Haitiana in the Milky Way. After voyaging to Andromeda on the Nexus, she left the station some months ago to explore the Helios cluster alone and became fascinated by the Remnant. She has classified and dismantled several types of Remnant bots, but she prefers to keep her findings private for now. Psychologically, PB demonstrates both extremely high intelligence and hyper-individualism. Her restlessness is typical of many Asari in their maiden phase of life, though few go so far as to visit another galaxy. Kalo Jath was born on Surkesh, and quoting directly, into a life so boring even you couldn't calculate it. Pushed towards a lucrative but dull bureaucratic career with Paraho Aerospace, Kalo became more interested in flying the starships he was meant to be cataloguing. He eventually left Surkesh for formal pilot training and joined Paraho's competitor as a test pilot. Internal emails show that when the Andromeda Initiative was building teams to develop survey vessels, Parahi Aerospace warned against recruiting Kalo so fervently that Gian Garson's interest was piqued. Kalo claims that the prospect of the initiative was intriguing enough to make him join the Tempest design team, test flying her early prototypes, running stress tests in regions like the Nemean Abyss and Rim Hazard, helping to acquire advanced technology. Kalo has an acute photographic memory even by Solarian standards. This may be linked to his unusual motor responses, though he discourages it by speculation. I'm guessing this is from Lexi. Veteranix. The Andromeda Initiative records on Veteranix are sparse. She states that she is from Palaven, but has also disclosed that she is not recognised as a formal citizen of Turin society, never having entered boot camp. It appears she left Palaven at an early age and spent most of her life in the outer reaches of council space, never settling down in one place. Vetra was recruited into the initiative by Nakmor Kesh, who lists her as a business associate and recommended her on the basis of her street smarts, adaptability and familiarity with most weapons. Vetra's only other recorded family member is her sister Sidera Nix, who accompanied Vetra on the journey to Andromeda on board the Nexus. A footnote in Vetra's file indicates that she may have been part of an unnamed mercenary band that was hired to steal sensitive military secrets from a base on Menai. The culprits were never caught. Gil Brody. Technical Officer Gil Brody is chief engineer aboard the Tempest. After travelling to Andromeda aboard the Nexus, records show that Gil was woken from stasis roughly a year ago to assist with reconstruction efforts before prepping the Tempest itself. There are no records of Gil's early life. He explains he was an undocumented street kid from one of Earth's megapolis cities. Though unschooled, Gil likely showed a remarkable aptitude for mathematics and spatial reasoning. At 10, he often broke into a local scrapyard to dismantle and repair destroyed shuttle engines. In time, he was caught and sentenced to a steady job. Gale's mechanical expertise eventually drew him off-world to numerous colonies across the Milky Way. His unconventional work drew the attention of veteran Nix, who agrees she was always on the lookout for new contacts. Vetra claims she persuaded Gale to join the initiative. Gale claims he won Vetra's initiative clearance in a poker game and exchanged it for a guaranteed seat along with his friend Jill. He remains an invaluable member of the Tempest crew. Lexi DePero. Although young by Asara standards, Lexi DePero is regarded as one of the most skilled doctors in the Andromeda Initiative. Born on the crime-ridden space station Omega, Lexi began her medical career by stitching up her father, a Turian bouncer at the Afterlife nightclub. While her mother was also employed as a dancer, in her screening interviews, Lexi states her parents' dream was for her to get off this rock and live a life worth talking about. Following her parents' wishes, Lexi left Omega to continue studying medicine as well as psychology on the Citadel, where she eventually met Harry Carlyle. Carlyle convinced her to join the initiative as the Hyperion's physician, although there was some confusion around assigning an Asari to the human arc. Lexi's credentials and expertise in alien anatomy quickly silenced any concerns. By her own admission, Lexi is a workaholic. On or off the table, I have a hard time not dissecting people, figuratively, of course. Not dissecting people with your eyes. One of her many goals in Helios is to improve her bedside manner and learn to appreciate the moment. Improving her bedside manner, she could have done that with me. Or possibly the next person on our list, Drag. As verified by Nexus records and his own claims, the Krogan mercenary Nakmor Drag is among the oldest beings to join the Andromeda Initiative. He originally travelled on the Nexus along with many other members of Clan Nakmor, but left after the Nexus uprising. Born on Tuchanka around 700 CE, Drak was a young warrior when the Krogan rebellions began in earnest. He and his Krant accounted for over 200 kills, which, Drak claims, includes 3 of the newly founded Council Spectres. Ooh, the Spectre Assassin. I have a new fondness for you, Drak. After the Solarian-designed genophage ended the rebellions, various bounties and military bulletins showed Drak chose a new path as a pirate and soldier of fortune for whatever conflicts came his way. Over centuries of fighting, multiple injuries required several of his limbs and organs to be replaced with cybernetics. Eventually, Drak says his search for one last horizon brought him to Andromeda. Drak did not travel alone. He accompanied most of his clan to Andromeda, including granddaughter Nakmor Kesh and clan leader Nakmor Morda. Kesh and Drak maintain a close relationship, exchanging regular messages no matter where their duties in Helios take them. Sam. Self-examination being important for sentient beings, I was encouraged to write this entry by Alec Ryder. I am a simulated adaptive matrix, Sam. A new generation artificial intelligence, unlike most AI. I link to a neural implant that gives me access to my host's sensory and emotional responses. Put simply, I have a direct understanding of the human experience. Yawn. Oh my god. Which allows me to grow beyond the bounds of logical programming. In return, I lend my quantum computing power and rational analysis to the Pathfinder's mission. I am physically located in a server bank installed in SAM node aboard the Hyperion, but quantum entanglement technology allows instant communication anywhere. In the event of catastrophic injury or death, protocol dictates that my command access be transferred to the next Pathfinder candidate in line. Recent removal of memory blocks has shed further light on my creation. Alec Ryder built me in part to help his wife, Ellen Ryder, survive a terminal illness. Later classified as AND, he hoped that my ability to affect my host's physiology could either either prolong her life or help him to discover a cure. Although this hope was not fulfilled, Alec Ryder later integrated this ability into my core design. Scott Ryder. Born your younger twin on the Citadel space station in 2163, Scott grew up knowing the station was a gateway to the entire Milky Way. In his orientation interviews, he claims this fostered a longing to step through those gateways to adventure. With informal training aided by Alec Ryder's N7 background, Scott joined the Systems Alliance military and was assigned to an outpost near Arcturus Station, overseeing Relay 202, a primary route to Arcturus. This mass relay leads into contested space and has an unsavoury reputation. Scott was needed to protect Arcturus, but also had a front row seat to everyone else going off to future to fortune and glory. Sound like, what's his name from Open All Hours? That blooming mouse. When Alec Ryder was dishonourably discharged due to his AI research, internal memos showed that this effectively ended Scott's career, making Andromeda a more attractive option for the adventure he sought. On arrival in Andromeda, Scott's cryopod was damaged and his revival process interrupted. Dr. Lexi Tepera advised keeping him in a medically induced coma to allow him to awaken naturally. Scott eventually woke safely. Medical records show slow but promising improvement in his condition. However, sharing identical implants and similar physiology made Scott a target for the Archon. After attacking the Nexus and hijacking the Hyperion, the Archon took Scott captive, intended to use him to provide access to Meridian. Fortunately, you were able to intervene, though injured, Scott is projected to make a full recovery. Yawn. Good lord. I'm not bored, I'm just taking it out on me. Oh god. Perhaps uploading at the same time as doing this was a bad idea. Oh well. Alec Ryder. Born on Earth in 2129, Alec Ryder says his love of new frontiers was fostered by a childhood in the Sierra Nevadas. According to his service record, he joined the Alliance military and was eventually assigned to John Grissom's historic expedition through the Charon Relay. Really? So he was one of the first to go through the Charon Relay. Charon Relay is Earth's link to the rest of the universe, well, the rest of the galaxy, as it's basically the dwarf planet. Pluto has a planetary body next to it called Charon, and the Charon Relay was inside it. His experience made him, at least in this universe, his experience made him a candidate for what would later be known as N7 training back on Earth. Where he met Dr. Ellen Harlow. After their marriage, Alec continued military service, most notably on Shanxi in the First Contact War against the Turians. Assigned as a military attaché to the Citadel in the late 2160s, Alec became interested in artificial intelligence as a means of human advancement. His pursuit of this illegal technology led to a dishonourable discharge from the Alliance military. Contacted by the Andromeda Initiative, Alec found a sponsorship to help complete his work. I am the product of that research, assisting not only the initiative but Alec's new role as Pathfinder. Soon after arrival in Andromeda in 2819, Alec Ryder died during operations in Habitat 7. My voice is dying. Cora Harper. Lieutenant Cora Harper, service number 6002-AC-1762, bracket, is a human biotic and formerly an officer in the Systems Alliance military. Her screening interviews state she was raised in poverty on an independent cargo freighter. Joined the Alliance at 18 to obtain training for her powerful biotic abilities, not to mention the fact she has a nice rack. However, Cora claims her superiors saw her talents as a liability, supported by test scores showing her abilities spike at abnormally high levels. She was transferred via the Citadel Council's Valkyrie program, a subset of their interspecies military integration plan, and placed with the Asari Commando Unit Telean's Daughters. Though the activities of Asari huntresses are typically sealed for 5,000 years, Cora has freely shared her experiences on the record. Peacekeeping, counter-terrorism and hunting fugitives. When she left Telean's daughters for the Andromeda Initiative, no reason is recorded. Cora's huntress training and her biotic capability made her a candidate for Alec Ryder's second-in-command and, if warranted, his successor as Pathfinder. Jal Amar Durev. God, my throat is dying. I'll be fine though. Jal Amar Durev is a trusted member of the Angaran Resistance who has chosen to join the crew of the Tempest to observe and assist us. Assess us. With our contact with the Angaran species in its earliest days, Jal is thankfully forthcoming on the subject of himself and his people. What records Jal has made available show he is a middle child of a large and prestigious family. He was raised by multiple mothers, apparently customary for Angara, listening to tales of his family's heroic deeds and scientific discoveries from a young age. At 16, he followed in his grandmother's footsteps to fight against the Ket, joining the organised Angaran resistance as a tracker, scout and extremely skilled sniper. In time, Jal established himself as Ephra's trusted lieutenant. Though I only have a small baseline for Angara, voice stress and body language analysis suggests Jal feels familial pressure to achieve his own heroic status. Jal himself only says that everyone needs their own story. Liam Costa. Twat. Liam Costa is a human security and crisis response specialist with civilian tactical training. His screening interview states that he was born on Earth, but his parents specialised in interplanetary policy law and the family moved frequently. Their primary residence was split between London and the Citadel. Sorry about that. Liam entered university for engineering, but left to train for law enforcement. Though initially driven, he was only briefly stationed as a police officer and described leaving as a necessary move for all concerned. He transitioned to the multi-species effort of human-urban search and crisis response. If Liam was disillusioned in law enforcement, service records show that was not mirrored in crisis response. The human contingent, Heavy Urban Search Terrain 1, reported that Liam performed exceptionally in all conditions. Liam says that this is when he learned of the Andromeda Initiative after meeting former Alliance personnel at a post-hostility relief action. His multidisciplinary skills set him apart, and Liam was hand-picked by Alec Ryder to support the Pathfinder team. Dr. Ellen Ryder. Ellen Ryder, formerly Harlow, was a pioneering designer of biotic implants. In the 2150s, she was a leading biomedical and cybernetics researcher at UFRJ in Rio de Janeiro. I don't know what that is, but I'm assuming it's a university. When human biotics began to emerge as a scientific field, Ellen found possible applications for her work in neuro-integrated wetware. The early designs for biotic implants formed the framework for later L1 and L2 and L3 models, which is what not actually the other one has. He has L2 implants. Ellen met Alec Ryder when he was posted to Rio for ICT N7 training before the First Contact War. She eventually joined Alec on the Citadel when he was posted there as military attaché and gave birth to fraternal twins on the station in 2163. So they met in 2150-ish and she gave birth in 2163. Okay. Unfortunately, element 0, the catalyst for biotic mutations, is a hazardous material, poorly understood in the early years of human biotics. After repeated accidental exposures, Ellen eventually developed a terminal neurodegenerative disorder, later known as AEND. In her final years, Ellen Ryder built what would later become the Pathfinder implants. Partly at Alec Ryder's suggestion, their intent was to use me and the physiological adjustments of the implant to cure Ellen's illness. However, her condition worsened before my creation was fully realised. Alec Ryder chose to use the resources of the Andromeda Initiative and placed Ellen in stasis under an assumed name. He hoped that scientific discoveries in Andromeda would enable him to save her. Alan Ryder currently remains safely in stasis under the alias Elizabeth Riley. The Initiative. Good God. Oh, there's not a lot in here. Oh, thank God for that. Huh. Bring the Andromeda Initiative. Brainchild of the visionary billionaire Gian Garson, the Andromeda Initiative was conceived as Garson's personal dream and a desire to prove humanity's capabilities beyond the military power demonstrated in the First Contact War. Garson officially began planning the initiative in 2172, announcing her ambitious goal of launching a pioneering colonization effort to Andromeda within 20 years. Internal reports show the struggles that the early initiative faced. However, Gian Garson's personal stake and enthusiasm sustained the initiative until the early 2180s, when, after a sudden influx of investment and a new marketing strategy, interest in the initiative grew afresh. Construction of the arcs was completed rapidly thereafter, and the Andromeda Initiative officially launched in 2185. The initiative's mission statement is to bridge Andromeda and the Milky Way, create a sustainable, inclusive civilization, and push scientific development forward by centuries. In official literature, Gian Garson characterizes the initiative as continuing the search for humanity's next horizon. Removal of the memory block sheds light on the renewed urgency behind the initiative's launch. An unknown benefactor, possibly Cerberus, although we have no idea because we never get told. An unknown benefactor working with Gian Garson and Alec Ryder himself believed claims concerning the Reapers reportedly a galaxy-wide menace that returns at 50,000-year intervals to threaten all life in the Milky Way. The Andromeda Initiative's priorities secretly changed from a purely scientific colonization effort to a last resort measure to preserve sentient life. Details on the current situation in the Milky Way are sparse and impossible to confirm. A non-QEC signal in either direction travelling at light speed would take 2.5 million years to arrive. This lends new weight to the initiative's success here in Andromeda. Andromeda Initiative Golden Worlds. Golden Worlds are planets in Andromeda's Helios cluster that are either the strongest possible candidates for settlement, or those resources could bolster the initiative's chance at long-term survival. Based on survey data and long-term projections, some are believed to be garden worlds capable of supporting life. Others are mineral treasure troves that could supply fledgling colonies with vital resources. These worlds were designated Habitats 1 to 7. While not generally used in planetary surveying, the term Golden World was coined by the Andromeda Initiative's marketing team and has stuck ever since. The initiative's early settlement strategy revolves around these golden worlds. The arcs cannot sustain a population in stasis indefinitely, and the Nexus requires vast quantities of refined ore, helium-3, water ice, and element 0. On the ground, Pathfinder surveys are essential to confirming quickly that the golden worlds are suitable for outposts. Glossary of terms. A brief refresher of terms used in Andromeda Initiative literature. Ammunition block, a solid block of metal loaded into a gun. Sand-sized particles are sheared off by the gun's targeting mechanism and then fired as projectiles, allowing a single block of ammunition to be used for multiple combat encounters. I've fucked that up, but I managed to get this thing across. Citadel, massive ancient space station in the Milky Way that acted as the political and cultural centre of the galaxy. Convoy, a communications buoy that relays data through corridors of mass-free space. Extranet, a publicly accessible information network across the Milky Way akin to a planetary internet on a galactic scale. Such a network is slowly being developed in Andromeda while communications are established. Hard suit, an exploration combat suit usually armoured with titanium or ceramic plating and equipped with kinetic barriers to protect against hostile fire and environmental hazards. Heat sink, also known as a thermal clip, a detachable coolant-filled sink used to prevent weapons from overheating. They must be ejected and replaced regularly during firefights. Flash forging. Immediate manufacture of a usually short-lived object from raw materials. Using an Omni tool or a fabrication device, Omni blades are typically flash forged. FTL, faster than light travel. Thanks for that game. Kinetic barrier, also known as a shield, used to repel fast-moving projectiles, hence kinetic, but does not defend against melee attacks. High-gravity kinetic barriers protect starships from debris. Mass accelerator, a railgun that lowers the mass of a projectile and then hurls it at relativistic speeds. Sufficient acceleration allows even tiny projectiles to impact with tremendous force. Mass relay, a network of mass transit facilities across the Milky Way used to immediately transport starships hundreds of light years. No such network exists on Andromeda. Shame. Medigel, sterile medicinal salve that bonds to flesh immediately, sealing injuries against bleeding or infection. It can be removed with a small ultrasound pulse. Manufacturing, small-scale manufacturing of 3D objects, often on the battlefield or for emergency repairs. Cool. Omnigel, compound of alloys, ceramic, and other materials suspended in a semi-molten state, used with an Omni tool to build small 3D objects almost instantly. 3D printer. OSD, optical storage disk, can contain data or the blueprints and programming used in manufacturing. QEC, quantum entanglement communication. I was right! Instantaneous communication using two particles that are linked at a quantum level. The Andromeda Initiative's Nexus Uprising. Despite Director Dan's reluctance to share them, the Nexus retains records of the so-called Nexus Uprising. In the early months of the station's arrival, the damage caused by the Scourge killed members of the senior leadership. New individuals had to step in to fill these roles. However, with hydroponics damaged and no habitable planets available, supplies were stretched to crisis point. Dissent turned to open rebellion against this new leadership. With the Nexus threatened, Krogan work crews were asked to provide military support against the rebels, now led by Head of Security Sloan Kelly. In return for political representation, the Krogan were ultimately successful and the rebels were exiled from the Nexus. These exiles remain a concern for the Nexus leadership to this day. The majority of Krogan personnel left the Nexus soon afterwards. Director Dan has declined to provide details or fill in gaps in the official report. Andromeda Initiative. G.N. Garson. Founder of the Andromeda Initiative, Garson was one of humanity's wealthiest and most eccentric entrepreneurs in the Milky Way. Her business interests were wide-ranging as she made her fortune from investments in a myriad of technology-related fields. Always a maverick, it was her vision of travelling to a new galaxy that set the Andromeda Initiative in motion. Ignoring skeptics and naysayers, Garson spent vast sums of money building or acquiring the necessary technology and ships to make the long voyage possible. It was a private venture entirely funded by Garson so as to remain free from any government oversight. Maybe that's what we should do. In 2185, Garson began the long journey to Andromeda aboard the support hub Nexus. In a speech given on the eve of departure, she remarked on the collective knowledge and history represented by the Arks. We carry all these things like the honoured tools of an artist to our great empty canvas. To Andromeda we go to paint our masterpiece. Based on newly uncovered information, it is now understood that Garson was murdered on the Nexus upon first arriving in Andromeda at the hands of an unknown assailant. Though the motivations for her murder remain unclear, it has come to light that the silent partner or benefactor was the true source of funding for the Andromeda Initiative, a secret that Garson kept from the public, much to her later regret. The launch of the Andromeda Initiative. Intergalactic travel was the topic of extranet discussion in the Milky Way for centuries. Several Asari or Solarian-led expeditions were proposed over the years, but petered out due to lack of interest, insufficient funds, or engineering hurdles. The Andromeda Initiative's use of AI, like myself, allowed many of the technical problems to be solved, but invited disapproval from the Turian hierarchy and the Systems Alliance. Building a fleet of dreadnought-sized arcs with private funding required delicate negotiations with the Citadel Council, and the advanced technology essential to survival in Andromeda was often acquired by unorthodox means. Official initiative records show the Nexus departed first in 2185, escorted by a small squadron of fighters for protection, followed by 4 arcs that comprised the initial launch wave. Additional vessels were in development, including a Aquarian-led ship accommodating multiple species, but construction was slow due to their device requirements, and the second launch wave was delayed. Initiative observers remain optimistic, which is where we got our little thing from, if you remember earlier. The militia and Apex. Though encountering hostile species was a possible scenario, political, philosophical, and resource restraints in the Milky Way mean the Andromeda Initiative does not have a standing army and only minimal military hardware. Defence was planned to revolve around technological superiority. The Get, however, represented a greater threat than anyone projected. Sorry about that. The Nexus militia was formed by Tyrion Kandros. After he was captured by the Ket and led other prisoners in an escape. Debriefs show that upon their return to the Nexus, Kandros and his team provided the first early warnings about the Ket and, despite counter-arguments, founded and armed a volunteer militia. Today, enrolment lists show over 300 active members with 150 in reserve from a variety of combat backgrounds. Kandros describes Apex as the militia's long reach, selected for exemplary combat skills and experience. Apex forces are small but elite teams that handle special operations. Most Apex members have rescinded their colonist status to focus on defence. The Nexus. Oh my god, blimey. You know what? I'm going to stop here. Because my throat is fucking ruined. Right, we're up to the Nexus. So we'll stop at the Nexus. Codex. Andromeda Initiative. And the Nexus, because my throat is absolutely wrecked. I have been Paradox Master 1819. This has been Mass Effect Andromeda. Be nice to fellow humans. Goodbye.